We're joined this morning by Vinnie Favale, the former head of late night programming at CBS and one of the founders of Comedy Central, worked closely with David Letterman, Howard Stern, and was there for the launch of the soon-to-be-canceled Stephen Colbert Show. Vinnie, thank you for joining us here on Connecting America. I can't imagine, what was your first reaction when you heard about this suspension late yesterday?
Thanks for having me. The funny thing is I'm still not over the Colbert cancellation. It seems like everything is so accelerated. We've moved on. And now it's about the Kimmel thing, which to me felt like a death in the family. It's insane. And I just want to be clear about one thing. I don't think it's about what he said on Monday. I think it's this accumulation of Trump comedy in late night, and they figured they could pin what he said on Monday on, as an offense that would be worthy of, Trump is saying he's been canceled. Meanwhile, he's been suspended. And I wish that ABC had just let the station group suspend Kimmel, so then they get their piece of meat or whatever, and then let this thing play out with the viewers protesting against the affiliate. But they just pulled the switch. It's crazy.
And just a day prior, I'm sure you saw the clip that John Karl from ABC News asked President Trump about some comments made by the Attorney General, that she suggested that free speech, or that hate speech was not free speech. And the president said to John Karl, maybe I'll come after you. You have hate in your heart. I think that was a preview of what was to come just a day later. What does this mean to you in terms of free speech in the United States?
Well, to me, it's really less about free speech, because people are going to say it's ABC. You don't have free speech on ABC, right? You have free speech in the middle of the street to say what you're going to say. And I hate that I'm saying this, but you'd like to think that the company you work for would back you up. Look, the Kimmel Show is really no different than the opinion shows on all the cable news networks, like especially Fox. Like, it's no different than Sean Hannity in that it's not news. It's a personality up there saying whatever they want to say, framing it in whatever they want to frame it. And it's chilling that ABC, which is also a big news organization, doesn't have Kimmel's back. And I get it. There's advertisers involved. If a big station group pulls, you got a big hole there in the middle of the country or scattered. But nobody's willing to fight anymore. It's ridiculous. And when Trump calls these reporters nasty and mean, like he did when he did that town hall on CNN where he called her mean, he's talking about himself. He's not talking about them. It's the most ridiculous thing. It's bullshit. And really, people should be circling back to the Colbert cancellation, where you had the senior Ellison hanging out with Trump at several mixed martial arts fights. They're all having these conversations in public view. Stephen Colbert was canceled because of Donald Trump.
Vinnie, I wanted to ask you to explain a little bit more what you said about wishing that before the FCC got involved, or ABC gave the suspension, that they would have let those station groups do what they were going to do, because they did hear it from viewers.
Right. Well, which view is pro or against?
Viewers that were very incensed by the comments.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, listen, they would have heard a lot more if there was if I think they ran Family Feud instead of Kimmel last night. If Family Feud was only on in those markets, and Kimmel even had a chance to address, not apologize, but address on the network, maybe to calm things down. But they don't think that way. They just pulled the plug completely because they don't want to deal with it. And my understanding is, no insight, just from what I've read over the years in the news, that Kimmel has a great relationship with Iger and the people at ABC. They've worked together. Kimmel's all over the network. Does this mean he doesn't host Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Is he now gone from everything? It's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
As we've pointed out, this is not the first president that's been the butt of late night jokes. We're thinking about your former colleague David Letterman and how many jokes he made at president's expenses. How much pressure right now this morning are Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon under? And what's your take on whether you believe they'll weigh in on this or just sort of sit this out for a bit?
I'm pretty sure Seth will weigh in. Lorne Michaels sounds like an amazing producer, someone that would have their backs as much as he could. But again, he's not the boss. He's got to deal with Comcast. But I'd be shocked if Seth Meyers didn't say something about this. And I'm really anxious. I know Kimmel's really close with Howard Stern, and I know Howard, I guess, is off the air Thursday and Friday, but it would be great if Stern opened up his microphones to allow Kimmel to do his show or a version of his show, or even just give him the platform to speak, where it could be an honest conversation of what he thinks of all this, because that's who we want to hear from. We want to hear from Kimmel now.
That's a great idea. In fact, I think Joe Rogan should be the one to really welcome him.
Absolutely.
He has a massive audience, and maybe I'm going on a limb here. I do believe Joe Rogan will draw a line in the sand here.
I agree.
And say enough's enough. What can we do? What can people like yourself do? Late night comedians do?
There's really not much because what they do is speak freely, and then that's in danger now. So I know it sounds lame, but it's boycott time. I don't know what you boycott. My wife said last night, that's it. We're not going to Disney. Easy to say because we didn't have plans to go to Disney like for the next 5 years. But, do you boycott Hulu, which is, tied into ABC and Disney? Do you target Sinclair? I don't know what was the market, Spectrum? Which was the market that had the problem? The affiliate, the ABC affiliate.
Sinclair and Nexstar, both of whom have business before the FCC.
Yeah, it's just I can't. When I was working with Howard, when we did the CBS syndicated show, he was under so much pressure from the FCC. Senator Brownback, I think it was. I mean, it was really painful. They were torturing him for things, that were ridiculous. This is all Trump. It's not the FCC guy. It's not the Attorney General. It's all Trump. This is what Trump wants, and all of these Fox News hosts that are now cabinet members, these reality TV people like Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz, who are now in the circle. I don't know how you fight this. Honestly, that's what's actually very, very frustrating. And boycott is the only thing that comes to mind. But what do you boycott?
Just pulling back the curtain a little bit, I was an anchor at Fox News, and as was Kieran. And one of the things we railed against when I worked there was cancel culture. We railed against the fact that people were being canceled for speaking their opinion. How ironic is this moment?
It's so meta. It's scary. And you could write a beautiful piece on this and make all of your points. And you see it on TikTok videos. The TikTok is fascinating right now because you have people sitting in their cars, talking to their phones with these impassioned monologues about what's going on. And they make these incredible points. And and millions of watching. I don't know what has to happen to change this, but like I said, I'm really anxious to hear Kimmel talk about this because I'm sure he'll make some really good points. Well, I don't know if it'll change anyone's mind, but that what they saying about Monday is total bullshit because that was the most benign thing, the most benign reason to choose. Such an idiotic example. Do
you think they were looking for an excuse then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Possibly to get rid of him?
They were like, the next time he says something, he's out. Absolutely. That clip of Trump being asked about Kirk and then pivoting to the ballroom, he did that another time too. He did that twice in like 2 days. That clip, people were saying the clip was edited to make him sound ridiculous, and it wasn't. That's what we're dealing with. And Kimball's brilliant observation, the 4 stages of grief, I guess, the stages construction. It was a brilliant observation on a video that was very, very real that just happened. So,
but you know what, Vinny, I will say, I don't think that making fun of Trump's reaction, the president's reaction to the question about how he felt about his friend. I think it was the fact that Jimmy was saying that MAGA is doing everything to try to distance themselves from this shooting suspect. And
saying that the suspect was actually MAGA,
right?
When we knew by Monday that the governor had already said he was
one of
left
them. But that clip is part of that package. I agree with you, but it's all there, and that has to get under Trump's skin. And the other thing, the important thing to note is it's interesting how South Park and Oliver, which are weekly shows, and they go off the air for a long period of time, seem to be immune from this. I mean, with South Park, the way they handle Trump, you would have thought that's it, it's over, but it's $1 billion franchise. These daily shows, Colbert, Kimmel, Myers, Fallon sometimes, they're like news to Trump. There's no difference between, a news show and a talk show to him and the people around him. And that's really scary that they can't make that distinction between an opinion and breaking news or real news.
Vinnie Favale, we could talk for hours about this,
Yeah.
and we know you're very passionate about it and come to
Yeah.
it with such a great perspective and experience, having worked on all those shows and with all of that talent. Vinnie, thanks for being here.